on Unsolved Mysteries.
They are known as Men in Black. They are the vanguard of the UFO phenomenon, cloaked in a veil of secrecy and quasi-official intimidation. No one knows exactly who they are, who they represent, or where they come from. It was a bizarre transcontinental odyssey that began at a border crossing in Western Canada and ended in a deserted parking lot in Tennessee. What prompted Blair Adams' sad and lonely journey to murder? Rosemary Altea says she was still a young child when she had her first encounters with the spirit world. Today, Rosemary believes she's been blessed with a rare ability to communicate with the dead, and those who have witnessed her sessions are convinced Rosemary's powers are real. This woman needs your help. Some 30 years ago, circumstances forced her to put her newborn son up for adoption. Now a serious genetic disorder has turned her search for that son into a matter of life and death. Join me for these intriguing new cases. Perhaps you may be able to help solve the mystery.
That question in huge letters.
These people share tragedy. Death has taken someone dear to each of them. In almost every case, it was a young child.
She writes love. The message for her father and for you is love.
Now they're desperately hoping this woman can connect them to those loved ones just one more time. Her name is Rosemary Altea. She claims she can commune with the spirits of the dead.
I'm instructed to tell you that he's handsome. Yes. Of course.
Rosemary considers this a rare gift. A gift she first became aware of as a little girl in England.
How sick he was.
Good night, Rosemary. Have a good night's sleep, all right?
In the beginning, Rosemary says her encounters with the spirit world were confusing and very frightening.
You would call them ghosts, but as a child, I just knew them as faces and voices, which voices would be whispering and whispering at me. I would never quite hear what they would say. Sometimes they would call my name. It would be very eerie, very ghostly, and it was very, very scary. I was a terrified child.
Mommy! Mommy!
If I cried out in the night because I was scared, my parents would basically yell at me. And I just was seen to be a bad child.
Pull yourself towards yourself. You don't want to end up like your grandmother, do you?
Rosemary's family had a history of insanity. Her grandmother has spent her last days confined to a mental hospital.
You know, as children do, I learned very quickly, very fast, to keep what was happening, my thoughts and my feelings and my fears to myself. And I grew up that way, never daring to tell anyone because my greatest fear was that they would come and put me in a straitjacket.
Last week we made a certain amount of headway.
Rosemary kept her secret for more than 20 years. Then she met a man who changed her life. He told her she wasn't crazy, she was psychic.
Good. Now that we're all here.
He introduced Rosemary to other psychics, and they began helping her unleash the power within.
As we do, we start to breathe deeply.
During one channeling session, Rosemary says she learned she had a spirit guide, an Apache shaman named Gray Eagle.
He has the most extraordinary eyes. His face, his skin is it's dark. And he's here to help me communicate with other spirits who have passed on, to get messages to family and friends.
Suddenly, everything made sense. It was like walking out of a very dark tunnel. Imagine that you are walking in a dark tunnel with no light for all of your life, and suddenly you discover sun. Suddenly you discover the sunshine.
I see a bird in the distance. It's a...
Rosemary decided then and there to dedicate her life to working with those who had lost loved ones.
great eagle, perhaps.
In 1995, she published a best-selling book about her experiences, The Eagle and the Rose.
Hello?
Miss Altea? Yes. Will you sign our copy?
It was at a book signing in New Jersey that Rosemary met a couple named Tony and Marie.
Miss Altea.
Yes?
Hi. I was wondering, do you ever speak at bereavement groups?
Oh, of course. If you'd like to see my publicist, she's right back there and she'll make all the arrangements for you.
Thank you.
Oh, you lost a little girl to cancer. Oh, my Lord, look at all the spirits around you. Well,
At that point,
I've got
we
quite
all
a
fell
lot.
off. We kind of fell apart because we couldn't believe that this woman, who we had no idea who she was, knew this.
I'll just take a seat right here.
2 years earlier, Tony and Marie had lost their 3.5-year-old daughter, Michelle, to leukemia.
I see two children.
When the book signing was over, Rosemary tried to make contact with Michelle's spirit.
I believe. The little girl. She's really happy that you saved a card. There's a special card that you saved in a drawer for her. And the picture that she made, that you have hidden in a box in the closet, she's very pleased you kept those things.
To Tony and Marie, that message was startling. One of Michelle's favorite playthings was a Valentine card Tony had given Marie.
My favorite card! Goodness, that card. The magical love card, huh? Let's see, shall we read it?
Beautiful.
Later, when Michelle was hospitalized, a therapist helped her make a flower picture for her parents, a piece of art they still treasure.
You did do it, didn't you?
No one except for my wife, my daughter, and me are the only three that knew about the card and a card in the closet that we kept. And at that point in time, I was absolutely convinced that this woman has an ability to speak to people on the other side.
She's quite adamant about her hands are on
As we
her
left the
hips.
bookstore, the biggest amazement was trying to get over the shock of everything that just happened that night. I mean, I couldn't believe what happened. And upon us discussing it and talking about it, I had a feeling of so much joy and so much peace that I can't even describe.
I'm so pleased to be with all of you. And I know that
Tony and Marie were members of a bereavement group. The other members were hoping Rosemary would be just as successful at contacting their loved ones.
find out if there are some messages.
Some, though, harbored quiet doubts.
Will you be speaking with us as a group?
The ability to be able to be in touch with spirits was very spooky to me, and I was somewhat taken aback by someone saying they had the ability to do that.
And he's with you all the time. Is that your son?
And as she progressed around the room, she was identifying several people and their associated child and what the child died from.
But the older one, she's older than any of the other children.
And she was telling the right stories about the right people.
Yes, it's...
And when she got to me and my wife, we were sitting there and she was saying, she looked at us and she said, "Your child died of a brain tumor."
Rosemary was right. 20-year-old Stephanie Bozak had died of a brain tumor in 1994.
She asked me to tell you that she has a scar on her head.
That's right.
She's very happy that you saved a lock of her hair.
Is that true?
I did do that.
And she really is happy about the statue for you. A statue, there's a man with a stick, possibly.
Like a trophy.
That's it, it's a trophy. She's very pleased about the trophy.
I won a golf trophy at the country club 2 nights ago.
Nobody knew about that.
I was absolutely flabbergasted. I mean, I felt like I was really connecting with Stephanie. She was there in the room with us that night. And that pushed me over the edge. That gave me the belief that Rosemary was doing something that was real.
I don't know how Rosemary does what she does, and I don't spend a lot of time trying to figure it out. I think it's something you get a benefit from, and you either accept it or you reject it. And it helps you get through sometimes.
She's looking at me very seriously. She says, I'm to tell you, and you won't be satisfied with this. I have to warn you now. People are given tremendous hope, tremendous hope. Because I'm here now. They're often given the strength and the encouragement to go on with their lives, to live their lives more positively. She says is to just get on with your lives. And she's asking, please, will you try? I just have a job to do, just like everyone else. My job just happens to be a little bit more extraordinary.
Can the spirits of the dead return to communicate with the living? Skeptics suggest that people who believe they can are at best indulging in wishful thinking. Nevertheless, those who've experienced Rosemary Altea's power are convinced they have indeed received messages of love from beyond the grave. Coming up, if you ever report that you've seen a UFO, you may receive some unexpected visitors. Who are the mysterious men in black? But first, a woman's search for her long-lost son becomes a race against time when she is diagnosed with a life-threatening illness. Sometimes one decision made with the best of intentions can change our lives forever. That was certainly the case for 15-year-old Bobby Page of Idaho Falls, Idaho.
Did you guys toss me that sleeping bag?
On a warm summer night in 1965, Bobby gave in to youthful desire and the young man she loved.
I love you. And I want to marry you, Bobby.
I believed what he said. I believed that he wanted to marry me. That night I knew that I was pregnant. I was excited because I thought I was getting married. I was very happy. I was very excited. I, was thinking about having a wedding and that this was my knight in shining armor coming to rescue me.
But just 2 weeks later, a vicious rumor brought Bobby's romantic fantasy crashing to the ground. Word had it that Bobby's boyfriend was not the baby's father.
Give me my ring back right now.
Why? What's wrong?
You lied to me.
What are you talking about?
Brad told me that you're 2 months pregnant. Did you think I wasn't gonna find out?
Brad has no idea what he's talking about, and why would you listen to Brad before you would listen to me?
My sister even told me you cannot get pregnant after having sex only one time, and you don't have morning sickness after only being pregnant for 2 weeks.
Your sister is crazy, and if you don't believe me, we can go to the doctor and he'll tell you.
Why would I go to the doctor? This has nothing to do with me.
It does. It's your baby.
It's not my baby.
It's your baby.
Give me my ring now.
Hey, Dawn, wait.
I was very afraid.
Dawn, please don't do this.
I knew that I was pregnant and he was leaving me. And I didn't want him to leave. I didn't want him to leave me. I felt betrayed.
Nine months later, on the day before Mother's Day, Bobby gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Early on, she had made the painful decision to put her child up for adoption.
I knew that I couldn't keep him. There was no way I could keep him. And I wanted what was best for him. And I knew that giving him up for adoption would give him the best chance at a good life.
Miss Page, I am taking over for your caseworker this
Bobby had been sedated when her son was born, and now she desperately wished to see him. But even that proved difficult.
I'm not signing these papers until I see my baby.
Bobby. I'm sorry, that's not allowed.
My doctor and caseworker agreed that I would not sign anything until I saw my baby.
I'm sorry, it's hospital policy.
I'm not signing these.
In the end, Bobby prevailed, but it was a bittersweet victory that has haunted her ever since. The heart-wrenching joy of seeing her child for the first time and the last.
I wanted him. I wanted to take him home. He had blue eyes. He opened them and looked at me, and he was beautiful.
It's time to go.
I was just totally emotionally drained after that. I sobbed all the way back to the room. I don't think I quit sobbing for weeks after that. But I signed the papers. I don't think I could even see what I was signing. I just said, "Where do you want me to sign?" And I signed the papers.
Thank you, Miss Page.
Bobby eventually married and had 3 more children, but she never forgot the son she left behind. In 1984, when he turned 18, Bobby traveled to the adoption center that had handled the case. Bobby thought she could now gain access to her son's records and find out where he was.
And he's 18.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't know where you heard that information. Unfortunately, once the records are sealed, we cannot open them no matter what the child's age is. So there's really nothing we can show you. Although, we can have you fill out a letter, and if he ever comes to us looking for information about his birth mother, well, then we can show him this information, and then maybe he can contact you.
Bobby wrote the letter and spent the next several years waiting for her son to answer. He never did. Then in 1993, a tragic series of events turned Bobby's search into a desperate race against time. Bobby was diagnosed with chronic active autoimmune hepatitis, a rare genetic disorder in which her own antibodies attack and will eventually destroy her liver. Bobby was told she had at most 10 years to live.
There is no cure for chronic active autoimmune hepatitis. The advantage of finding Bobette's son now would be that if he did have the disease, he could be treated early, prevent liver damage, and extend his life quite a lot.
My last area, or second.
Since the diagnosis, Bobby has stepped up her search with the full support of her other 3 children, who all run the risk of inheriting her disorder.
I want to see her happy. I want to see her enjoy, you know, this time that she has left, and I think that finding my older brother would do that for her.
A lot can happen in 30 years. Her curiosities range from everything to what is he doing with his life now in terms of career, you know, how was his home life, everything like that. Was it everything she had hoped it would have been by giving him up for adoption in order to provide a better life for him?
What I want is to let him know that I love him, and I've always loved him, and that I loved him from day one, that I always cared about him, and that I wanted the very best for him, and that my hope is that he's had a wonderful life.
When we return, no one knows why Blair Adams left his home in Canada and why he turned up dead in Tennessee. Was he running from a killer or from his own personal demons? And later, dozens of people claim they've encountered the so-called men in black. Are they secret government operatives assigned to investigate UFOs, or do they come from a place beyond space and time? Strangers found him, half-dressed and battered, in a parking lot on a gray July morning in 1996. Scattered around the body was a mix of German, Canadian, and U.S. currency totaling some $4,000. His wallet was intact, and its contents identified him as 31-year-old Blair Adams of Surrey, British Columbia in Western Canada.
Every aspect of this case is mysterious. There's no logical explanation for anything he did. We can't say for a fact that this is why he did that, because there's no explanation for it.
We cannot come up with a motive for this man to be dead. We can't come up for a reasoning for him to be here. We can't come up for a reason for him to leave Canada. Nobody knew he was going to take this trip. Nobody. This is an actual whodunit.
The investigation is not stalled for lack of evidence. As Blair Adams wandered the continent, he left indelible impressions on everyone he met. Authorities have now been able to reconstruct his baffling 3,000-mile journey in exhaustive detail. But still no one knows why Blair left home, or why he ended up in Knoxville, Tennessee. No one knows whether Blair Adams was running from a killer, or if he was just running from himself. Prior to his mysterious death, Blair Adams was a foreman with a construction company in Surrey, British Columbia. Those who knew him say Blair liked his work and did it well.
Blair did seem to have a normal life. He had many friends. He had a job. He traveled on occasion. Had a history of several different girlfriends. Was well liked by virtually everyone that we've had contact with.
However, in the summer of 1996, Blair's cheery demeanor began to crack and buckle. Now his mood swung unpredictably from agitated paranoia to pensive withdrawal.
Something was obviously very much the matter. He hadn't been sleeping well. Something was wrong. I asked him numerous times what was wrong, and he said, "Oh, I don't think I should tell you about it." And to this day, I don't know what it is.
Whatever trouble was brewing in Blair's life began to boil up on Friday, July 5th. He withdrew his savings and emptied his safe deposit box of more than $6,000 in cash and thousands more in jewelry, gold, and platinum. It was a first stop on his dead-end run to Tennessee. The next stop was a Canadian-American border. On Sunday, Blair made the first of several attempts to enter the United States. As he would so often in the last days of his life, Blair left a lasting impression.
Where are you going?
Seattle.
Can you step out of the car? I want to see some ID.
As an unmarried young man carrying a large amount of cash, Blair fit the profile of a drug trafficker. He was refused entry. The next day, Monday, Blair showed up at his job, but not to work.
I need to quit my job.
Why?
Need some time. Can I get my check?
Blair's erratic behavior continued. That afternoon, he spent $1,600 on a round-trip airline ticket from Vancouver, Canada to Frankfurt, Germany. His flight would leave the following day. But just hours after buying the ticket to Germany, Blair was again desperate to get into the United States. He showed up at a friend's house in a panic.
Blair.
Kate, I'm sorry to come by so late, but I need your help. I really need you to help me, Kate.
Wait, it's almost 1.
I need you to take me to the border.
Take you to the border? It's the middle of the night.
I just need you to drive. I got a car.
Blair, I can't leave my kids.
Kate, somebody's trying to kill me.
Kill you?
Yeah.
Blair provided no details about the death threat. His friend was unable to take him over the border.
Okay, forget about it. Sorry to bother you. Thanks anyway.
On Tuesday, Blair went to the Vancouver airport as scheduled. But instead of boarding the plane for Germany, he turned in his tickets, rented a car, and headed back to the border. This time, he managed to slip through. Blair was in Seattle by 4 p.m. He left his rental car, a Nissan, at the airport and bought a one-way ticket to Washington, D.C.
The one-way ticket was odd because he paid about $770 for a one-way ticket when he could have purchased a round-trip ticket for approximately $350 or $400. So it would have been half the price for a round-trip ticket as he paid for a one-way ticket. It just seemed very unusual.
After arriving in D.C. early Wednesday morning, Blair rented a white Toyota and continued his peculiar odyssey. Now he was headed to Knoxville, more than 500 miles to the southwest.
His travel was unlogical in itself. I mean, why go to D.C. to turn around to come back to Knoxville? He had no business or no reason to be in East Tennessee. He had no business or no reason to be in Knoxville. Everything we can find out, he knows no one in East Tennessee or the eastern United States.
Hi, can you help me? I can't get my car started. What's the problem?
Blair was first seen in Knoxville around 5:30 that afternoon.
Oh, this can't be your key.
Yeah, that's my key.
Oh, this is a Nissan key.
Yeah?
Well, this is a Toyota.
So?
Well, it won't start it.
Well, that's the key I've been using.
You have another key?
No.
Are you sure?
So the mechanic says, okay, empty out your pockets and let's look for it. He empties out all his pockets. There is no key to the Toyota.
Blair was stranded in Knoxville until morning, when he could get a new key from his rental car company. A mechanic drove Blair to a nearby hotel, where he once again made an unforgettable impression, this time on the desk clerk.
Best way to describe him would be paranoid. He just was very nervous, agitated, expecting someone to come in on him even though there wasn't anybody there. I don't know who he was looking for, but he was waiting for somebody to walk in for him.
Perhaps Blair was being followed. Perhaps he only thought so. The hotel's security camera shows that in the space of an hour, he went in and out of the lobby 5 times before finally paying for a room.
We can only assume that something was wrong with his thought process. He wasn't acting rationally.
After checking in, Blair pocketed the key. But instead of going to his room, he marched out the front door and never came back. It was 7:37 p.m., and it was the last time Blair Adams was known to be alive. "12 hours later, Blair's body was found in a parking lot about a half-mile from his hotel. He was naked from the waist down. Blair's death was as enigmatic as the last few days of his life.
His pants were removed in a way not like someone would take their own pants off, but in a way that someone else would remove your pants from you in a pulling motion where his pants were turned inside out. His socks were turned inside out, his shoes were off, and his shirt was ripped open.
$4,000 in American, Canadian, and German currency was strewn around Blair's body. Another $2,000 worth of jewelry, gold, and platinum was found inside a small pack. And there was one other perplexing clue. The key to Blair's Toyota had suddenly reappeared about 10 feet from his body.
We start looking at the angle of maybe a drug deal gone bad. That didn't pan out. We start thinking about robbery. Robbery was immediately first thought of. You throw it away because all the money's still there. We tried to find anything in his background that would have led us to believe that he frequented with prostitutes or that he even had any homosexual experiences. Anything to explain how he was found the way he was found. We found nothing.
According to the autopsy report, Blair had sustained numerous cuts and abrasions. Police believe some of the wounds came from fending off an attack. Blair was ultimately killed by a violent blow that ruptured his stomach.
Hey, somebody's trying to kill me.
Although Blair had been adamant that his life was in danger,
Okay, fine.
authorities now believe the threat was imaginary and that Blair's bizarre pilgrimage was a wild flight from his own inner demons. And yet somehow at the end of the road, Blair Adams wound up dead, just as he had feared.
I want Blair back. I want him well and healthy. I want him to knock on the front door and come in. But obviously, that's not going to happen. I don't know. Blair is dead. And it would be nice to have some understanding of why he died.
Blair Adams was killed on July 11, 1996, near Interstate Highway 40 in Knoxville. Authorities believe the fatal attack occurred at around 3:30 a.m. Never underestimate the power of prayer, a simple expression of faith that has endured for centuries, a testament to the timeless belief that through spiritual devotion, anything is possible, even miracles, both great and small. It was the summer of 1995. Linda Gordon, a divorced mother of 4, was living in Sackett's Harbor, New York. At the time, Linda was longing to meet a man she could love, a man she could marry.
I was sitting outside my front porch and I was reading my Bible, and I glanced up and I saw a man jogging. 3 months earlier, I had written in my prayer journal that I felt I was ready for a husband, and that if God wanted me to have one, to send him to my door. And then I called all my friends and family and said, I'm praying for a husband. And they laughed and said that the only guy I was going to marry that came to my door would be the pizza guy.
But this guy was not delivering anything. In fact, he was searching for love, just like Linda.
I want to introduce myself. I'm David Shoeblack.
I'm Linda. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
David was a major in the Army on temporary assignment at nearby Fort Drum.
I've seen you sitting here before.
I just felt a warm glow and then goosebumps on top of that. And a voice spoke to my heart and said, this is the man you've been praying for.
For both Linda and David, it was literally a match made in heaven. 4 months later, they were married, just hours before David shipped out to Louisiana for 6 weeks. But their married life together didn't begin until late November, when Linda joined David at Fort Huachuca in Arizona. 6 days later, David set off on his usual morning run. His route took him to the far reaches of the base. Where the sidewalk ended, David began running along the shoulder of the road. He was headed east, directly into a blinding sun. David had been struck full force by a car traveling at 52 miles an hour. He was catapulted some 60 feet through the air and landed headfirst on the pavement.
Traffic accident, bilateral leg fractures. I think he was...
David had suffered several massive skull fractures, broken both his legs and his left arm. Within hours, he was airlifted to the University Medical Center in Tucson.
We've inserted a shunt and have increased his barbiturates. Major Shoeblack's intracranial pressure has continued to increase.
Shortly after his admission to the intensive care unit, the normal functions of his brain just obviously were stopping.
His reflex responses have remained...
We usually start to become worried about patients' intracranial pressure once it gets over a level of 15 to 20 millimeters and it's sustained for that level. Major Shoeblack's intracranial pressure was really 3 to 4 times what we normally would consider survivable intracranial pressure in an individual.
That pressure was causing David's brain to swell uncontrollably. Dr. Smith told Linda there was little hope for his recovery.
I felt like I was being sucked down a drain, and I wasn't going to allow that to happen. I wasn't going to lose hope, and I wasn't going to accept the negativity that the doctor was saying, even though it was true medical science.
After 5 days, the time came for Linda and David's family to make a heart-wrenching decision.
David is clinically brain dead. You and your family have 3 options. You can leave him in the hospital and maintain life support. You can take him home with you on life support. Or, since he indicated he wished to be an organ donor, you can sign the papers to harvest his organs.
I had to get spiritually radical because things were getting very intense, and I had a lot of pressure on me through various people, and it's not a negative thing, but here was an organ donor, and there are people that need organs, and I totally agree with that, but I couldn't sign the Harvest the Organ papers if I knew in my heart that David wasn't dead.
Linda once again turned to the Bible for inspiration. she was immediately drawn to the story of Lazarus. According to the Bible, Jesus brought Lazarus back to life after he had been dead for 4 days. Linda prayed that God would do the same for David.
And Jesus said, "He who believeth in me, though he were dead, shall still live. And whoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die." Believeth thou this?
I did all I knew how to do spiritually. Medical science couldn't save David. They said he was dead. Money couldn't save David. Only God could save David.
We had a meeting with the family last night regarding the options they
A few hours later, Dr. Smith went in to check on David's vital signs.
I was amazed when I examined him that instead of maybe 1 or 2 primitive reflexes, he actually opened his eyes and started to look around.
David? David, can you hear me?
Very quite eerie, and certainly out of the ordinary. It was not something that we expected to see. It rather gave me chills up and down my spine when I saw this.
When Linda returned to the hospital, David's father was waiting with the astonishing news.
Linda. Now, don't get your hopes up.
What?
But there was a flicker of response when the doctors checked David this morning.
That wasn't a flicker. That was the flame of God.
Linda, we'd like you to talk to David. We need to see if he'll respond to commands.
Linda was convinced that David's life signs were the miracle she had prayed for, a modern-day parallel to the story of Lazarus.
David, sweetheart, it's me.
Can you move your left hand, David?
I knew that David wasn't going to die because when I met David, God spoke to my heart and said, "This is the man I'm giving you, and you will have a long life together serving me." David and I had only been married 6 days, and that's not a long life together. So I knew that he wasn't going to die.
To me, it was just a waking up from a sleep. That's all it was. It was just coming back into contact literally with life, but I remember nothing else. It was just like I woke up from a nap.
Incredibly, just 3 months after he was all but given up for dead, David Shoeblack was discharged from the hospital. He has since made a complete recovery, a recovery that still has his doctors grappling for answers.
The car's over here.
I have never seen someone survive the pressure this high. The fact that he returned to normal function after that is remarkable. Is it a miracle? It very may well have been.
How can we explain David Shoeblack's remarkable comeback from the brink of death? Was it luck? Or perhaps, as the Shoeblacks believe, divine intervention ascribed to the power of prayer?
I'm truly amazed every day at what happened to me. There's no way that a person cannot be amazed. Absolutely none. Linda proves what moving a mountain calls for. Determination in faith will do all things.
Next, meet the men in black. They arrive without warning, oozing power and intimidation. Their origins are a mystery, their mission unknown. The men in black are one of the most perplexing mysteries we've ever come across. Cloaked in secrecy, they show up without warning, state their business, then vanish as quickly as they appeared. No one knows who the men in black are, where they come from, or who they represent. There's no real proof that they even exist. But hundreds of eyewitness accounts give us good cause to investigate this most unusual phenomenon. Meet Ray Muniz of Austin, Texas. Ray owns and operates his own auto tinting shop on the outskirts of town. A rather ordinary job for a man who claims to have had several extraordinary experiences. Since he was 9, Ray says he's had 5 separate encounters with UFOs. As a result, Ray has now become a sort of local celebrity.
Because of all the experiences that I have or have had, I thought it necessary for me to start looking into all of this. So I started this show here in Austin, this local cable access show called Project UFO.
I mean, world power. That's kind of general.
Every week, Ray speaks to other people who say they've had first-hand alien encounters. In June of 1996, one of Ray's viewers sent him this home video, which supposedly shows an unidentified spacecraft in the sky over Georgetown, Texas.
Man, look at that. It's a UFO, man.
And on the video, you can see a radio station tower which has 3 red lights on it. Well, right next to this tower is this huge UFO that's just hovering there, like parked.
Those ain't no airplanes, and they're getting close.
Several days after he received the tape, Ray says some unexpected visitors showed up at his shop.
They were dressed in black suits, black ties, the black glasses, the whole 9 yards.
Mr. Muniz? Yes? Read all know, Muniz? Yes? I have a summons. A summons? Internal Revenue Service. Am I being audited? Just show up.
I showed the paper to my worker just for a moment because it looked official and everything. Well, I walked back out to see where they had gone to, and there wasn't anything out there. There was no time for them to drive away in a car or walk away. It was very strange.
Not wanting to take any chances, Ray hurried to the downtown address listed on the summons. There he claims he encountered another man in black.
I took my box of my papers and everything, all my tech stuff, and I laid it down on the guy's desk. I said, well, here it is. He looked at me and said, okay, thank you, you can leave now. I said, excuse me? He said, thank you, you can leave now. And I said, aren't you going to look at my stuff? He said, no, thank you, you can leave now.
Ray says he returned home to find his video collection ransacked. He now believes this was the reason for his visit from the men in black.
They wanted me at a certain place at a certain time so they could go to my house and look for that tape. They didn't find the tape. I still have the tape. So it's either something that was government that they didn't want people to know about, some new aircraft, or it was a UFO that they don't want people to know about.
The men in black may be either A, human intelligence operatives working from deep-level black book projects, that's their entire agenda is to silence UFO witnesses and experiencers to relating to the public what they may have encountered. There are also, I believe, men in black that are non-human in origin, who have taken upon themselves the job in order to do the same thing that the human men in black are. In other words, to silence or to control the output of information regarding the UFO phenomenon.
I was feeling frightened. I was concerned for my safety. I felt a little bit harassed, if you can put it that way, and I did not know what to expect, so I was on guard.
Colette Peters of San Juan Capistrano, California, is a highly accomplished figure skater who has garnered several national awards. Colette claims that during her life, she has had 2 UFO experiences and one unnerving encounter with a man in black, who she is certain was something other than a man.
When I was approximately 19 or 20, I was in New York City, walking down one of the main avenues, and I started to encounter a very, very bizarre feeling. It was pure evil. And when I looked up, what I saw was a very tall, lanky man walking towards me, but he seemed out of place and quite odd. His skin to me did not look normal. You couldn't see any facial hair or if he had shaved or any imperfections. It was a smooth, shiny, plastic-looking jaw. It seemed to fit the criteria of what people call the men in black. The only difference is, in my case, they did not directly come up and threaten me. I don't feel that he had conveyed any message to me except by the presence that he kept, the sinister, evil nature that generated from him is the only way I could really describe it.
I think people have had genuine experiences which are anomalous and unusual. It does not mean, however, that I think that they are extraterrestrials that are telling them to be quiet about something or what have you. In my opinion, they are disinformation agents using a combination of physical alteration of their appearance with some of these electronics. And these are electronic systems which have been reverse engineered from extraterrestrial devices, and it is intended to simply set people off from looking in the direction of what's really going on with the UFO or extraterrestrial issue.
There is, of course, another possibility. Skeptics have said that the men in black are merely the product of a few overactive imaginations.
I'm a gotta touch it, feel it, see it type of person. I was there, I saw, I felt. You know, I mean, why would I put my life in danger for a lie?
I don't feel that it could have been a figment in my imagination because of the physicality of it, the feelings that I felt. I'm not talking about emotional feelings, I'm talking about the hair actually raising up on your skin. It was quite unique. It was something I'll never forget.
We asked the Air Force and the Department of Defense if there were covert units that fit the MO of the men in black. The Air Force issued a blanket denial. The Department of Defense said, "We've never heard of such a thing," then added, "You might try the Air Force." Join me next time for another dramatic edition of Unsolved Mysteries.